Jessica rented a place at a low price to sever all ties with her ex and prepared to move overnight. The house, however, was located in a rather remote area. She navigated through winding alleys, and the stray dogs at the intersections had already given her several curious glances.
What should I do? I'm lost. It's dark, and I'm scared.
Speak normally, or I'll smack you.
I told you not to rent such a cheap and remote place. What if it's haunted or something?
Jessica, the social warrior, afraid of ghosts?
Just as Jessica was about to retort to these heartless friends, she bumped into a human wall while looking down.
Dude, do you just stand in the middle of the road without saying a word? Don't you know it's pitch dark here without a streetlight? What are you doing?
Waiting for my tenant. I called several times, but no one answered.
Jessica weakly exited the group chat and saw 5 missed calls. Slowly, she looked up at the man who was a head taller than her. Her previous bravado vanished instantly.
Bro, landlord bro, I'm sorry. I didn't check my phone just now. I'm bad with directions and got confused. I admit I was too loud earlier.
It's fine. The apartment is on the 6th floor. Give me your luggage.
With that, he effortlessly picked up her luggage, which felt like a bag of explosives. Jessica watched his straight back, his long but strong arms, and now, under the light in the hallway, she could see his perfect head-to-body ratio clearly.
Ladies, family, my good deeds have finally paid off today. Guess what? My landlord is an absolute hunk.
Emily? Emily? Did something really happen to her?
If she doesn't reply soon, we'll take a cab over.
Jessica swallowed quietly, seeing the handsome guy put on his headphones, and couldn't help but speak excitedly.
You know I'm a photographer, right? I've seen a lot, but he hits all my spots. His head-to-body ratio is perfect. That voice and the moment he looked down at me were so imposing, but he's really nice. You know how heavy my camera gear is, right? I even had to hire someone to carry it before, but he just lifted it with one hand.
What's the point of all this? Where are the photos? Is there another room for rent?
Wait, be cautious. What if he has ulterior motives?
Are you sure it's the landlord with ulterior motives?
What nonsense! I just became single and am very happy with my current state. But honestly, he was wearing a deep V-neck pajama top with his collarbones and chest muscles half revealed. Isn't that just teasing? He was cold to me. Isn't that playing hard to get?
Jessica's greasy speech was interrupted. The landlord stopped at the door, leaving her with a cold back.
What does that mean?
The handsome guy turned around, enunciating each word, even somewhat through gritted teeth.
It means, I am.
A monthly rent of 500 yuan didn't set my expectations high for the environment. To my surprise, the one-bedroom apartment looked simple yet elegant, with a black and white minimalist decor that showed a touch of taste.
Where should I put your luggage?
The basic quality of a social butterfly is that as long as I'm not embarrassed, everything is fine. I quickly trotted over to take it from him.
Just put it on the floor. Hello, Mr. John, my name is Lily. Nice to meet you.
The handsome guy's face clearly said, I'm not that pleased, but he nodded out of politeness.
He's so aloof, I kind of like it.
I glanced over the rental contract. Everything seemed fine except for the last clause, no pets allowed. I was a bit curious.
Mr. John, are you allergic to cat fur? Or afraid of dogs?
Afraid, I guess.
A cold-faced handsome guy at least 6 feet tall with broad shoulders and a slim waist is afraid of dogs.
That's quite a cute contrast.
He rubbed his temples with his knuckles.
No, you might have misunderstood me. It's the pets that might be afraid of me.
Actually, this move was a sudden and unexpected event. To put it bluntly, my 3-year college sweetheart, Daniel, who had been with me from student days into the workforce, doubted my fidelity just because I went on a business trip with my boss. I never thought I would hear such venomous curses from a lover's mouth.
Aren't you just pretending to be carefree to mix in the circle? You can't wait to throw yourself into a crowd of men at social events.
But the photography industry naturally has more male photographers. Clearly, I got along better with the model ladies. Should I change careers just because of gender imbalance? My close friends advised me to cut ties quickly and reject the emotional manipulation, so I decisively moved out. Out of sight, out of mind. Unexpectedly, the rental process went smoothly, and in high spirits, I got up early for once, cooked egg-filled pancakes, made millet porridge, and prepared pickled radish. But when I arrived at the company, the HR manager looked at me with sympathy.
Emily, we've been colleagues for a long time, so I'll give you the inside scoop. It's not our branch manager who wants to fire you, your position was taken.
What do you mean?
Someone pulled strings to get in. Look, she's quite good at it.
I followed her gaze to see a girl with light brown wavy hair and a sweet smile, handing out treats to colleagues at their desks. She turned. The tension between Emily and Sophia had always been palpable. Emily couldn't shake off the memories of betrayal, and seeing the good luck charm on Sophia's bag only deepened the wound.
Should I rush over and tear it off? Should I scream and demand to know why she always takes what's mine?
She recalled the graduation project debacle, where Sophia had stolen her hard work, leading to both of them being punished equally. The injustice still gnawed at her.
So much time has passed, and I thought the shadows would be blown away by time, but they won't.
Emily's hand gripped the phone tightly, her knuckles turning white.
Hello! Daniel, you make me sick. You can easily dismiss my career, my efforts, humiliate me for my gender, and suppress everything I love just to make me feel guilty and cling to you. But the truth is, you were the one who cheated first and then blamed me.
The driver in front of her was startled by her sudden outburst.
She apologized back then. What's the point of bringing up old issues, Emily? Grow up. This society is like this, survival of the fittest. If your abilities were really better than hers, how could you be replaced? Think about it.
Are you teaching me how to live? Daniel, I've been paying the rent, and now you're teaching me how to twist facts and live off others?
Just after hanging up, Emily saw a text from Grace, her collaborator.
Emily, the sample clothes have arrived. Is the afternoon shoot still on schedule? Where should I wait for you?
A wave of sadness washed over Emily. She thought of Grace, a new model with delicate and sharp features, short hair, and a strong sense of androgyny. Grace loved modeling and had great expressive power, always ready to endure long shoots without complaint. Emily had recommended her for collaboration. Emily rushed to Grace's rented small apartment, downed 2 bottles of wine, and only dared to admit in her drunkenness that she had been fired.
Oh, and the person who took my job also took my boyfriend.
Jessica, I didn't know, I'm sorry. Grace looked flustered, handing Emily tissues and trying to take the bottle away. Stop drinking.
Drunk, Emily pulled out the equipment, adjusted the lighting, and focused.
It's fine. What do they say? In ancient times, Levi wrote 1,000 lines of poetry while drunk. Now, Emily takes 100 photos while tipsy.
Grace looked worried but still cooperated, posing in various positions. Emily immersed herself in photography to relieve her worries. Until John's call came through.
It's almost midnight.
Grace and John exchanged glances.
Is he your boyfriend?
I sighed internally.
Good question, but let's not ask it again next time. Honestly, if I had to choose, I'd definitely prefer to have both. But alas, I'm like a non-stick pan with no attachments. These two are each handsome in their own way, but neither has anything to do with me.
No, I'm not. I'm not. She gave John a once-over and very obviously pushed me forward, but you could be.
My aloof landlord drove in silence. Although he's usually a man of few words, today he was exceptionally quiet.
Hey, I'm sorry. I'll come back earlier next time. It's mainly because of work. I just had a few drinks. You're not allergic to alcohol, are you?
It's fine. He added, smiling slightly. After all, the person was quite good looking, so having a few more drinks is understandable.
Huh? I was full of questions. The car stopped at a red light, and John's fingers tapped rhythmically on the steering wheel.
Do you admire him a lot? More than me?
I couldn't help but lean closer.
What did you say? It was the first time I looked at his profile so closely. Under his dark lashes, his light green eyes reflected the shimmering streetlights. Hey, I hope this question doesn't offend you, John. But why are your eyes green? Are you of German descent?
Fueled by liquid courage, I finally touched the long neck and the collarbone I had been longing to admire. It was like appreciating a piece of art up close.
And so pale? Why is your body so cool, almost like it has no warmth? Could it be that you're not human? Like Dracula or something? Wow, do vampires have to be this good-looking?
He suddenly grabbed my hand that was about to continue its exploration. But he didn't scold me or push me away. His long lashes trembled, as if forcing himself to stay calm.
Don't go any further.
After a whole day of non-stop events, I felt my thoughts and sanity on the verge of leaving me.
Immortals must not lie to their benefactors.
As a corporate drone, one must be prepared to break up one day and continue working the next. While massaging her neck and editing photos for Grace, Emily was also searching for brands she had previously collaborated with. Last night's events had become fragmented memories. Breaking up, drinking, and persisting with work, classic Emily. Did I forget something? It felt like a part of her memory was blank, but it seemed unimportant. Unexpectedly, on her way home from a business meeting, Emily ran into her ex, Daniel. Or rather, he had somehow gotten wind of her whereabouts from one of her friends and came specifically to confront her.
Emily, why didn't you tell me you were moving? Even if we broke up, I could still help you with something.
What a typical romance drama opening. Emily looked at his seemingly sincere face, smiled, and extended her hand. The keychain, give it back. While he was still confused, she swiftly removed the keychain and tossed it into a nearby trash can without hesitation.
Emily, what are you trying to do? I really cherish this. No matter how we argue or fight, even if we part ways.
Being pestered all the way, Emily had almost reached the alley's entrance. The elderly passers-by gave them strange looks. Emily finally couldn't hold back and crossed her arms, sneering. By cherish, do you mean passing it around to others and then taking it back when they don't want it? The goodwill on his face quickly dissolved.
What do you mean?
Isn't it possible that I know Sophia better than you do? She doesn't actually like you. She just enjoys the thrill of taking things from others. First, it was my work, now it's my job and my boyfriend.
His eyes darkened inch by inch.
Of course, the most useless and the first to be discarded among all these is you.
You son of a...
He trembled with rage, but suddenly, a pale hand appeared on his shoulder, and John's deep voice followed.
What are you doing?
Daniel violently shoved him away.
What the hell does it have to do with you?
But when he turned and saw John's face, his anger turned into a sneer.
I knew it. Out with the old, in with the new. What a lame excuse. And who the hell is this pretty boy? Speak up.
However, perhaps due to the suddenness of the shove, the black handbag in John's hand fell to the ground. Feeling guilty for involving others in her personal matters, Emily repeatedly apologized and quickly squatted down to help John pick up his things. The inner bag seemed to have torn, and a cold, sticky liquid started to seep out. Sorry, I'll compensate you. As dusk settled, under the pale streetlight in the narrow alley, Emily saw her blood-stained palm. Equally pale was John's face. It was blood, flowing and spreading on the ground. He quietly observed them with his light green eyes. For a moment, it felt like the entire atmosphere shifted with his movements. Daniel's hand began to tremble uncontrollably.
You!
What am I? Actually, I'm a professional hitman.
Daniel let out a hysterical scream and scrambled away in a panic. Emily was slightly more composed, not screaming outright, but she did faint cleanly and swiftly. The end of another day in the life of Emily, where in a dimly lit room, a sense of foreboding hung in the air. The rent was suspiciously low, and John, the enigmatic occupant, seldom left his home. His professional demeanor seemed to cloak a deeper mystery. Lost in thoughts of work and memories with Daniel, I hugged my knees and quietly sobbed, oblivious to John's presence until he pushed the door open.
Hey, were you a water bucket in your past life?
Startled, I jerked back to the corner of the bed like a fish out of water. We stared at each other in oppressive silence until I mustered the courage to speak.
Mr. Assassin, you probably won't agree, but can you let me live until the 25th?
Why?
Because I get paid on the 25th, and I want to send the money back home.
So, if you could keep living, would you move out immediately after getting paid?
No, I've already paid 6 months' rent, and your place is really cheap.
John seemed to sympathize with my plight, a hint of understanding in his eyes.
All right, you're worse off than I thought.
His pity did little to comfort me. Being pitted by a killer wasn't something to be happy about anyway.
Why do you believe everything I say? Haven't you considered that the bag might just contain some animal's blood, and I bought it for a hot pot?
That actually made sense. I looked up instantly.
So, what kind of blood is it?
Human blood.
My eyes rolled back. If I weren't afraid of dying without knowing why, I might have fainted on the spot. John stared at me for a long moment.
I've had professional training. I usually don't laugh. In fact, I haven't laughed in over 100 years.
Over 100 years? My worldview twisted into a pretzel.
Isn't it said that after the founding of the country, no one is allowed to become a spirit?
Not a spirit, he gently lifted my chin with his pale fingers. I'm from the Green Snake Clan, one of the 5 great immortal branches.
Memories of ancient stories my family told came rushing back. Living by the mountains, the folklore of the 5 great immortals seemed just that, folklore. But this revelation shattered all my preconceived notions.
When you were 9, you went up the mountain with some other kids, remember? You dragged me out of a cave.
My stiff, petrified expression shattered into pieces. I am terrified of snakes. When I was a child, during summer vacation, my parents took me to my grandmother's house in the mountains to escape the heat. One day, I was bitten by a colorful green snake. The snake species was called village banquet, which basically meant I could say goodbye to this world and hope for a better next life. Miraculously, I survived, but it left a permanent scar on my young heart. I never clamored to go back to my grandmother's house again. The rare times I did go, I was fully armed and trembling, even avoiding pheasants.
You humans adhere to the survival rules of the mountains and forests. Naturally, I wouldn't easily break them, unless I was in a weakened, delirious state during my transformation period and someone caught me by my weak spot and dragged me out of my lair.
I fell silent.
You were the first person I bit in my 100 years of cultivation.
Well, I am honored. John remained silent. No wonder I didn't immediately reincarnate. It was because you were in your transformation period and didn't use venom? At that time, my grandmother and my mother were scared to death. They said this kind of snake was highly venomous. They invited at least 7 or 8 shamans, 5 barefoot doctors, and even the village chief. The village chief said to give the child something good to eat, and my grandmother tearfully killed the last chicken in the house. And I didn't die, ha ha ha. I patted his shoulder. Since then, I felt much freer. It seems like my fate is in my own hands, not the heavens. By the way, did you find me on purpose?
Yes.
Why? It can't be because you thought I tasted good and wanted another bite, right?
The villagers beat me half to death. Your grandmother even asked a shaman to draw talismans and stick them on the cage they trapped me in, saying that even if they couldn't save you, they would bury me with you.
That nightmare-like memory, told by him in such a slow manner, didn't seem so terrifying anymore.
But you sneaked into the ancestral hall at midnight. Should I say you were fearless out of ignorance? Or inherently kind-hearted? You kept muttering that it was my fault for provoking you first, that one of us had to survive, or it would be a huge loss in the underworld. You opened the cage and set me free. Later, I found out that I was just one good deed away from completing my transformation, and you fulfilled it for me.
So, I get it. So, you say I'm your benefactor?
Yes. But you said you were most afraid of snakes, so I thought unless it was unavoidable, it was better not to let you know.
Come on, I am afraid of snakes, but you are an incredibly handsome guy. I suddenly felt refreshed and even threw him a seductive glance. John looked very uncomfortable under my intense gaze, clearly trying hard to control himself.
According to our immortal customs.
You have to find the person from back then to repay the favor, right? To pledge yourself to them for life, right? John, you are my living Buddha. You are my only God. How did you know I love the cold and abstinent type of handsome men, he. All my years of doing good deeds have not been in vain. I accept your repayment. Come on. I closed my eyes. In the secluded and shadowy world of the Qing snake lineage among the 5 great immortals, they have a distinct preference for dark, damp caves and a strong aversion to bright or hot places. They thrive in the shadows and consume raw, cold sustenance. This explained the mysterious bag of fresh blood Daniel and I had encountered that day. But I don't recall ever seeing such news in the legal daily. John couldn't help but roll his eyes subtly.
What era do you think this is? Do you think I'm as poor as you? Nowadays, as long as you have money, you can get any type of blood from the hospital. Speaking of which, you broke my blood bag, so this expense will be added to your rent next month.
Money isn't an issue, yet you still live in such a small alley. John stared at Emily intently. She shivered and asked, "Did I say something wrong? Just pretend I didn't say anything."
No, actually, I have plenty of properties, mostly in the suburbs or downtown. None of them have anything to do with you, and you can't afford to rent them. I was just thinking about how to phrase it so you wouldn't feel too bad.
What he said already made her feel terrible.
$500, that's probably all you can afford, so this is the only place.
Emily had thick skin, as long as she didn't care, it was zero damage. No worries, darling. When you feel like it, we can check out the other residences.
Aren't you here to repay a favor?
He took a deep breath.
Yes, to repay a favor, not to sell myself. I can ensure your safety and take care of your daily needs, but my body belongs to me. What are you thinking about?
Emily chuckled and smoothed his hair, which was about to stand on end. Just kidding, I know I'm just an ordinary person. How could I dare to dream of being with a transformed immortal? I'm not that greedy, I just find it fascinating. The man's gaze flickered unexpectedly, then slowly lowered. He seemed to want to say something but ultimately said nothing. In any case, Emily accepted the fact that her landlord was a snake, the same Alex who formed an alliance with rodents back in the day, and she moved back into this old house. She didn't dare tell anyone but couldn't hide it from her childhood friend who grew up with her. Her friend came over, shamelessly claiming to visit Emily but clearly wanting to see the legendary immortal. But bringing live chickens and fish? Clearly not for Emily.
So, our grandmothers were right. Immortal, can I make a wish for wealth?
That's the yellow immortal's domain. Not my responsibility.
Then what can you do?
John casually picked up the still fluttering live chicken, his pale green eyes narrowing slightly. Under their stunned gaze, the chicken didn't even dare to squawk, only its claws twitching. They watched as the large live chicken was drained by him. Yes, drained. In the blink of an eye, only a tail feather remained in his fingers.
Humans too.
Sorry to bother you, Immortal.
Grace quickly excused herself. Later, Grace excitedly found Emily, saying the brand Emily connected her with liked her style and was even drafting a formal contract to sign her.
Emily! Let's have hot pot together.
As the hot broth bubbled, Emily tossed some cooked tripe into Grace's bowl. Then, John knocked on her door.
Emily, do you know what it means to disturb someone's sleep with food smells in the middle of the night?
Emily glanced at him. Wow, the dark green velvet pajamas made his skin look even more translucent, the wide deep V barely covering his muscular frame. Do you know what it means to knock on a girl's door dressed like that in the middle of the night? She swallowed the words as she noticed his sharp fangs. Come in. The steam conveniently hit her slightly flushed cheeks, blending the ambiguous feelings into the bubbling hot pot. Yeah, he must be here for the hot pot. The three of them devoured the hot pot. Grace and Emily had a bit to drink, and Grace started crying as she always did when tipsy.
Emily, I really have to thank you. I've always felt so insecure. So many people said I looked like a freak.
What's wrong with being a freak?
Huh?
That's not the point, Grace, ignore him. As a photographer, you should discover beauty, not define it. Who says girls can't be dashing? Look at my colleagues, their looks and figures are no match for you. How dare they criticize you? After sending Grace off, full and satisfied, Emily threw her chopsticks down and slumped on the couch. Hey, handsome, the night is long, how about we?
No, let me reiterate, repaying a favor doesn't mean selling myself. Besides, if we make too much noise, the neighbors will complain. Also, I haven't watched your human videos in a long time.
I meant talking about life. What are you thinking?
The man's pupils contracted suddenly, but his ears gradually turned red.
Oh, then.
So, who goes first?
You go. For beings like you with long lifespans, do love and relationships still matter?
John had a bit to drink, his slightly flushed cheeks and sparkling green eyes were simply mesmerizing. What's with you immortals? This is pure temptation.
Of course, they matter. Though I've never experienced it.
Why?
The Alex lineage spends most of their time meditating in caves, often seen as cold-blooded and unfeeling. Many of my kin are highly toxic, so humans avoid us. They can't run away fast enough. The yellow immortals' bonds are mostly about wealth, the fox immortals about love. I don't know what bonding with me would bring, but for me, a bond is for life, giving everything. Can you understand that?
Emily didn't quite get it, but she envied that kind of emotion. After all, she had been unlucky in love. Daniel not only locked her heart but also kicked her career into the gutter. So obscure, so unnoticed. No one cared why she left, no one even glanced at her empty seat. This city was like a giant machine in operation, and they were just replaceable parts. Talking about lifelong commitments or one true love in this era would probably make a date laugh, right? Though she really thought about it. So even though Daniel hurt her so much, she still put up with it. The words were on the tip of her tongue. John slowly but firmly shook his head.
You're human, you wouldn't understand.
Sometimes life takes unexpected turns. In movies and books, a heartfelt confession often leads to a romance. But when John and I shared our feelings, he became more like a father, taking care of my every need. Despite this, I still had hope, believing in the power of my friends.
Ladies, how do we win over a cold and aloof yet incredibly handsome landlord? We're really out of ideas.
A woman who acts coy gets the best results.
Please, that's such an old trick. Deduct points.
I put down my phone and tried to muster the right expression.
John, how can you eat chicken, little chicks? It's too cruel.
John glanced at me, completely unfazed.
If you won't eat it, I'll take it.
He took the drumstick from my bowl without hesitation.
The last strategist should be punished. Next one, please speak.
I can't stand it anymore. All you do is drink for inspiration and work. Flirt a little, have a drink, you know?
Suddenly, the background music from The Legend of the White Snake played in my head, along with that scene where the white snake scares Susien.
No, he's allergic to alcohol.
Actually, I'm scared. The group went silent, everyone frantically searching their love and dating tips.
Maybe we should go with the safest route. From your description, he seems like a cold on the outside but pure on the inside kind of guy, not into flashy stuff.
Well said, keep talking.
Ask him to go shopping with you. Arrange for some subtle perfumes, high heels, and half-price second cups of milk tea. And at that flower shop we visited last time, give the lady a heads up so she can say, "Wow, your boyfriend is so handsome."
I replied with an okay emoji and turned around. John had finished an entire roast chicken, even trying to piece the bones back together.
It's not too much to ask my benefactor to go shopping with me, right?
It was evident that his stature and looks were quite impressive. Even when he was casually standing in line, he attracted a lot of attention from the ladies around.
I had put in a lot of effort for this date. Under the scorching sun, I frantically touched up my makeup and, at least 3 times, pretended to twist my ankle and fall into his arms.
In the end, he came to a conclusion.
You must be exhausted. Let me carry you back.
All right, I think I get it now. Or rather, I should have understood it much earlier.
John doesn't like me. The reason he went to such lengths to find me was merely to repay a past favor or perhaps to honor an agreement between Alex and the human race.
Although he took care of me meticulously, although he fulfilled all my requests, and even bought large bouquets of roses after my gaze lingered on them for a moment. But he simply doesn't like me.
Here's your key.
Oh, okay, goodbye. John, I'm sorry for bothering you for so long. I know the 5 great immortals value loyalty and righteousness. You've done enough. You can leave now.
There was no response from the other side.
I turned my head. Roses scattered all over the ground, their glaring red like fresh blood.
John?
The vintage carved clock on the wall ticked away, a black umbrella stood in the corner, and outside the window, the sun was blazing, scorching and blinding.
Suddenly, I realized something and hurriedly ran down the hallway, pulling the black velvet curtains shut.
John lay on his side on the hardwood floor of the living room, his disheveled black hair clinging to his face, his pupils pale and unfocused, and his exposed wrist showing an abnormal bluish-gray color, colder than the first time I met him.
John, what should I do?
It's okay. I just need to rest for a bit.
Why didn't you say something earlier? Why did you keep accompanying me?
Lily! Stay away from me. In this weakened state, my rationality can't fully control my actions. After all, I am still a beast at heart.
No.
I'm begging you. I don't want you to hate me.
No! I'm not afraid of you. It was my negligence that caused this. If I could bear the consequences as a child, why should I be a coward now as an adult?
I told you to leave. I'm begging you, Lily, leave this place and forget everything that happened today.
His long, white fingers gradually turned a pale blue, scales appearing faintly and becoming denser. A wrist, bleeding profusely, was extended in front of him. God knows how terrified I was when I cut myself. But his weakness scared me even more.
I can handle it. Just stay still.
The shadow before me wavered slightly. Even in his weakened state, Alex could easily restrain me. I heard his urgent swallowing. The sight of the bright red blood made me dizzy, and I clung to his shoulder to stay conscious.
You shouldn't have.
But survival is a basic human instinct. I heard my heartbeat quicken, tears mixing with blood as he drank. John paused, and I simply hugged him, whispering.
Continue.
When you lose too much blood, the pain isn't sharp anymore, it's replaced by a vast dreamlike sensation. His eyes were so beautiful, like deep emerald lakes, with shadows cast by his brows giving him an eerie allure. It felt like I was back in the days when I first saw that vivid green, and I reached out instinctively.
Alex. My Alex. I don't want you to repay your debt and leave. I want you to always owe me.
When I woke up and saw John sitting by the bed, I was so surprised I almost jumped up, only to nearly collapse again from weakness. He caught me just in time.
You died too?
We're both alive.
Still in a dreamlike state, I pinched his face. It seemed to have a bit of warmth.
Do you believe it now?
Not completely, unless you let me feel your abs.
He lowered his lashes and turned his face away awkwardly. I was furious.
Come on, you drank so much of my blood, and I just want to feel your abs. Is this how you treat your benefactor? Who's in charge of your clan? Do you believe I'll file a complaint?
The bedroom was lit by a small nightlight, casting a warm glow. The man's features finally softened, no longer an impenetrable ice mountain. He looked at me again, his green eyes like melting snow in early spring.
Sorry, the clan leader is me. What would you like to complain about, little benefactor?
The latter part of his sentence carried a hint of a smile, tickling my ears.
I have this.
Honestly, I'm all talk and no action, would you believe it?
Just want to see the abs.
His arm fully supported me, his handsome face inches away. The little deer in my heart, which I thought had long died, was about to burst out. He suddenly grabbed my hand and slowly moved it towards himself.
Actually, what I wanted to ask was, is it just the abs you want to feel?
Huh?
The chat group Rich Lady Candidates was about to explode.
Emily, if you don't reply soon, we're really calling the police.
Come on, her last post clearly wasn't taken at home. The composition screams she's not working. And look, she even sneakily showed some roses. Emma, if you ask again, it would be rude.
Honest person here, what happened?
Nothing much, she just spent the night with that cold and aloof landlord.
I quickly and righteously retorted. Who's spreading such wild rumors? It was completely consensual. The group admin has changed the group name to Rich Lady Candidates and the Blasphemous Rogue. Since things have come to this, I might as well embrace the rogue title. Using the excuse of recovering from an illness, I shamelessly stayed at John's house. After all, I later realized that there was no need for me to sacrifice myself that day, letting him nibble and bite. Buying 2 live chickens would have had the same effect.
Have you watched too much Twilight? I'm not a vampire. But honestly, you do taste better. I kind of understand those Western guys now.
Go away.
How about letting me stay until you're full?
Yes, yes, yes. I was utterly spineless. Honestly, John, with his hair tucked behind his ears, wearing gold-rimmed glasses and a dark green brocade shirt, looked both ascetic and dangerous. Especially when those hands personally fed me. I thought to myself that all those years of burning incense hadn't been in vain, and smirked. Hey, who are you dressing up for at home?
For you. Had enough? I have a guest to entertain.
A guest? The doorbell rang, followed by a naturally seductive female voice.
Mr. Lin, how's my door-to-door service?
I stared blankly as a beautiful woman with wavy curls and a seductive sway walked into the hallway. She tucked her hair behind her ear, revealing full, petal-like lips, smiling with eyes that sparkled. Forget other men, just watching her walk in made my bones go soft. John, you? What happened to our lifelong bond? I'm still unemployed and bedridden.
Why else would I have her come?
The beautiful woman extended her hand to me.
So, you are the one Mr. Lin is bonded with. Nice to meet you, I'm Isabella of the Fox clan. Mr. Lin rarely mingles with the world, and his identity is inconvenient, so he entrusted me to help you with some troubles.
Troubles? I scratched my head, suddenly remembering that I had once mentioned to John why I wasn't running around with a camera anymore. I want to know the reason. Who knows, maybe it's my ex's current girlfriend's doing. But it doesn't matter anymore. There's a Chinese poem that goes, just when all seems lost, a new path emerges. John looked at me as if I were a monster.
Sorry, I really don't understand how you can maintain such an optimistic spirit about nature and landscapes after a breakup and getting fired. But I do admire you.
With that, he turned to leave. Where are you going?
To handle some matters.
John's voice was calm. He put on the black coat he wore the first time we met, took a black umbrella from the hallway, his figure tall and his fingers pale, like a godfather walking out of an American movie. Yesterday, when Daniel called, I was in the living room, adding water to a bouquet of roses in a glass vase.
Lily, you really have some nerve. Are you messing with me?
Did you lose your mind? Do you need me to book a bed for you at the psychiatric hospital?
Don't tell me you know nothing! The person you sent seduced me and then sent the video to Sophia. Now that crazy woman has made sure the whole company knows.
Although I was clueless about the situation, my response was, ha 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 ha. Isabella showed me her phone, which was full of Daniel's desperate messages. The more I read, the more twisted my expression became, as if my head was being dunked into an oil field. He had even falsified accounts and altered company records to please Isabella. When he couldn't cover the gap, he begged Sophia, who promptly forwarded the incriminating videos to the company group chat, distancing herself from him immediately.
Naturally, we also uncovered the truth about Sophia stealing your work years ago. Because it was so long ago, we had to use some extreme measures.
What do you mean?
I mean, she won't be able to steal anyone's work ever again.
I was a bit stunned and somewhat moved in a way that's hard to describe. Actually, when Daniel self-righteously told me that society is all about survival of the fittest, I was almost crushed to the point of doubting my own talent and hard work. John told me that there is nothing wrong with being kind, honest, and sincere. In fact, it was these qualities that made it easy for him to find me in the vast sea of people. My unique aura.
Hey, by the way, where's Grace? How is she doing?
Isn't she quite capable? What's there to worry about?
Boss, it's one thing to be jealous of a cannibal, but even a young girl? Don't worry, Miss Jessica, we have people in her company who will ensure everything is fine.
Only then did I nod in relief. After seeing off the guests, John was still being awkward. When I moved left, he turned right. I suddenly leaned in and stole a kiss. He finally stayed put.
You?
We're already together, so I'll kiss you whenever I want. How about that? When do you have time to go back to the mountains with me to see Grandma? With you, the clan leader, around, I won't get bitten by snakes again,